My name is Damien Monnier. I'm one of the designers on Witcher Wild Hunt. The series started quite a few years ago with the first Witcher. It was a nice introduction to a character that few people in the West knew, but a lot of people in Russia were familiar with, Geralt. We then took his story to the second chapter, quite a linear progression, but very tight combat, an upgrade actually from the previous title. We listened a lot to the fans. And again, this one, his final chapter on Witcher Wild Hunt, where once again we listened to the fans and created what I believe is the best Witcher game so far. One of the main changes from a gameplay point of view was probably the combat system. People wanted an upgraded version from the second one, and we have delivered, but we've delivered a lot more than what was asked for. People wanted more of a responsive mechanic and combat that was maybe easier, more approachable, easier to pick up, but not easier overall. It's still a great challenge. You can still use spells and signs that you can now upgrade. We haven't lost the RPG element of this, so you can focus on combat if you want, or spells, or even alchemy, so that has stayed, but we've again added a lot more to it, made it a lot deeper. The skill trees they have a lot more branches. And another big change, something that was requested from the fans from Witcher 2, was the open world. People really enjoyed the storyline and the beautiful sceneries that we've created, and they simply wanted more. Well, you wanted more. So we've opened the world. It is now open world with more quests as well, hundreds more. And we've created two worlds, two huge worlds that you can travel between. Now, those worlds are really massive. I can't stress enough how big they are, both with different backstories to them. One has a more Slavic feel to it, something you guys in Russia will be very familiar with. Slavic characters and mythos that were used to create this world, No Man's Land, the Northern Kingdoms. And the other one, Skellige, with a more Viking Nordic feel to it. Bunch of islands with one center one. You'll be using your boat a lot more in there to explore all the side islands. So compared to The Witcher 2, this one I would say is a more upgraded version. We've delivered even more, and we've fixed some of the things that people wanted changed from the second one. In order to create a believable world, you have to spend a lot of time on your systems, gameplay systems that you can rely on, such as the ecosystem we have, for example. The ecosystem that sees monsters, humans and animals all interacting with each other. Well, this system will work without the player, without you doing anything, and that was very important, and that's how you create a world that is alive. Now, we take that system and we focus on certain regions of the world and make sure that the right monsters, the right animals, the right people will live in that area. So we approach each area very carefully with a team that we call a strike team. It's a number of people that will focus on an area and making sure that is populated right, that it feels right. And we're not going to overpopulate every area to make them too busy. If it doesn't make sense, then you will not see people in deserted areas. But it's still not going to be empty. We have animals and birds and things that will happen around you, but just the right amount. No Man's Land is not going to be full of animals. There are people that are starving. All the animals are very scarce. So when it makes sense, you will be surrounded by things that will happen around you, and again, it will be your choice whether or not you want to interfere and see where that takes you. Interfering with certain events that we have placed might even start a quest, but it's for you to discover. Part of the ecosystem is the way that your actions will influence the rest. So for example, very, very simple example. If you go in a forest and you see a lot of wolves and a few deers, killing the wolf population will mean that more deers can live in the area. So by simply killing the predators, you will see a lot more of the other animals populating it. and vice versa. If you kill all the deers or the few deers that are there, there's no reason for wolves to stick around, otherwise they will starve. And so they will move about to where food might live. And that's a small part and a very small example of that ecosystem that makes sense. We don't reset areas once you leave and come back into them. As for quests, once you have finished certain quests, new ones will open. And we also have those events that will constantly happen. Again, where it makes sense. We're not just gonna create those random encounters for the sake of keeping you busy, but you have to see and explore the world and see what I mean for yourself. Well, we're still finishing the quests. Right now we're polishing still and adding more and more content. A safe number that we give is often 100 hours worth of gameplay. But personally, I think it's closer to 200, considering the amount of quests we have, not just the main quest, but the side quests, minor quests, events that will happen around you, and just you exploring certain areas. We also have monster hunting. We got treasure hunting as well that may or may not involve any fighting at all, but a lot of exploration, puzzle solving. We really have a ton, and 200 hours is really much closer to the estimate, or it's actually a good estimate of how long it will take you to complete it. But even then, I think it'll be even more than that, to be honest. To give you another example of our living world, a village that you might come across will have sad people in it, people that simply don't want to work and they're depressed because their local merchant was captured by some bandits. As you walk around, you will speak to them, and this isn't even part of a quest. You will just hear them being depressed because the local economy is totally gone because of that merchant. So you can figure out where that guy is gone, and if you manage to maybe free him, he will come back to the village. The people will be happy. They will now do totally different things. You will be able to speak to them as well, and you will hear how happy they are. And that's just a simple switch from sad to happy. But there are so many different levels where the actions that you take will change people's attitude and what they do in that village, and you will totally see around you, the world around you changing because of your actions, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. And that's what we're trying to play with this ecosystem that's a lot more organic and that reacts to some events or things that happen around them. NVIDIA invited me to Russia to go to their studio actually to show 3 techs mainly that we've been working on. The first one is the fur tech, and it's beautiful. It's not just for fur, it's also for hair. One example that you can find online is the wolf, and you can see his beautiful fur. Bears also use it. We have animals like goats, mountain goats, that have a very thick coat. A lot of monsters like the Fiend, Bies in Polish, has a lot of fur as well on it, so we try and use that a lot. Some of your costumes and armors will also include some of that. So we really try and use it nicely where it makes sense, and it really is beautiful because it reacts to all your movements. The second tech we also worked with NVIDIA very closely was the cloth tech, and that's used throughout, not just on people, but maybe on a merchant shop when you see it just reacting to the wind. And the last one is destruction. We use that also throughout the game, where maybe some weak structures can be destroyed with a bomb or a bolt from your crossbow. It's a new weapon as well for Witcher Wild Hunt. It's a portable crossbow that is on your left wrist, and you can use that throughout the game, and I particularly like it because it's very useful, especially underwater, because now you can swim, as I was saying. You can swim, you can see new creatures underwater, and that crossbow is going to save your life when you come across something underwater, for sure. As a Witcher, you still need your 2 main swords. One, a steel sword for humans, and the silver one for monsters. On top of that, we have added a crossbow that will help you take down, for example, flying creatures. And all those are upgradable. You can find new ones, but you can boost them, of course, with oil, with the polishing stone, something that you're familiar with if you've played the second game. On top of that, we also have different armor sets that will come in pieces. Some of them you will need to buy, some you will need to fight for, and some you will need to find in the world. Others you can probably even craft yourself if you have the recipe, and crafting is a big part of the game as well, because you can craft even bolts for your crossbow. If you know you are hunting down a specific monster and you need a specific bolt to kill them, then you need to find the recipe, craft that bolt, and off you go. Something we've added as well for Witcher Wild Hunt, and something I'm quite proud of because I designed it, is a game called Gwent. It's a collectible deck building card game. We have 4 factions in the game. You choose a faction, or you can have all 4 if you want, and you build your deck by gathering them around the world, fighting for some of them. And once you have your deck, you can sit down and play against other NPCs. Now, you get a physical version of 2 of those factions with the Xbox One, the special edition. Marcin Iwiński, our studio director, one of the founders, he explained why we had to make that decision. We needed some support from Microsoft in the US, and they said to us, okay, what sort of exclusive can you give us? And we felt that in order for us to remain CD Projekt, you know, the game had to be the same throughout. We don't want to do in-game exclusive, you know, that's something, you know, we'll always say no to. And we thought, okay, you know what, the physical card game will be okay because it's nothing, you know, it's not in-game and it's 2 factions and it'll be okay. And of course, Witcher Wild Hunt will be DRM free. Because at CD Projekt Red, we don't believe in punishing people with this lock. Instead, we're going to focus on the quality of the game. We believe that if a product is good enough and it deserves to be purchased, then you guys will buy it. And that's just the way it is. We're never going to change that. We will always be DRM free. As far as DLC is concerned, our policy is always to have free DLC. Now, right now it's too soon to talk about it because I really don't know what we want to do yet, because we need to finish the game first. But once it's done, we'll sit down together with the guys in the team, and I'm sure we'll come up with some really cool stuff for you. And one of the biggest challenge actually of making Witcher Wild Hunt is making sure that hardcore fans that have not only played the first and second game but also read the books, will instantly understand the world we've created for them and not be bored by maybe some sort of recap that will be there to, you know, get new fans and people that simply are not familiar with the world of The Witcher. So that was a big challenge. The beginning of the game will not be boring for those who are familiar with it, but at the same time it will introduce new fans to the franchise. Now, on top of it, if you've read the books and if you've played the previous games, you might recognize some characters here and there. So for sure, hardcore fans will be able to pick up on those people or even names that are being dropped or even locations. But new fans don't need to play the previous games. They can just start it and they'll be introduced gradually to the world of The Witcher and what a Witcher does as well. Before I go, I just want to say spasiba. You guys have been awesome. I love coming to Russia because we have so many fans of The Witcher, and you guys really get it. You really get the Slavic feel to our game because it's also part of your culture. So please always come see us. It's always a pleasure to be in Russia. Пока.
Some fight for glory, justice, or gold. I fight for those I hold dear. I'm Geralt of Rivia, the Witcher.